Good morning and welcome to our reading as Christian and Hopeful continue on their way. Just thinking about the old hymn, Amazing Grace, kind of summarizes this book in a way in one of its verses where it says, through many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come. His grace has brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. I think that's something that resonates with the contents of the Pilgrim's Progress as well. So Christian and Hopeful continue. Therefore no marvel if where flesh only bears sway, as it will in that man where no faith is to resist, if he sells his birthright and his soul and all, and that to the devil of hell. For it is with such as it is with the ass, who in her occasions cannot be turned away. When their minds are set upon their lusts, they will have whatever they whatever they cost. But little faith was of another temper. His mind was on things divine. His livelihood was upon things that were spiritual and from above. Therefore, to what end should he that is of such a temper sell his jewels? Had there been any that would have bought them? To fill his mind with empty things. Will a man give a penny to fill his belly with hay? Or can you persuade the turtle dove to live upon carrion like the crow? Though faithless ones can for carnal lust pawn or mortgage, or sell what they have, and themselves outright to boot, yet they that have faith, saving faith, though but a little of it, cannot do so. Here, therefore, my brother, is thy mistake. Hopeful. I acknowledge it, but let your severe reflection had almost made me angry. Christian. Why, I did but compare thee to some of the birds that are of a brisker sort, who will run to and fro in untrodden paths with a shell upon their heads. But pass by that, and consider the matter under debate, and all shall be well betwixt thee and me. Hopeful. But, Christian, these three fellows, I am persuaded in my heart, are but a company of cowards. They would have run else, think you, as they did, at the noise of one that was coming on the road. Why did not little faith pluck up a greater heart? He might, methinks, have stood one brush with them, and have yielded when there had been no remedy. Christian. They that are cowards, many have said, but few have found it so in the time of trial. As for a great heart, little faith had none. I perceive by thee, my brother, hadst thou been the man concerned, thou art but for a brush, and then to yield. And verily, since this is the height of thy stomach, now they are at a distance from us, should they appear as to thee as they did to him, they might put thee to second thoughts. But consider again, they are but journeymen thieves. They serve under the king of the bottomless pit, who if need be will come to their aid himself, and his voice is as of the roaring of a lion. I myself have been engaged in this little faith, as this little faith was, and I found it a terrible thing. These three villains set upon me, and I, beginning like a Christian to resist, they gave but a call, and in came their master. I would, as the saying is, have given my life for a penny, but that, as God would have it, I was clothed with the armor of proof. Ay, and yet, though I was so harnessed, I found it hard work to quit myself like a man. No man can tell what in that combat attends us, but he that hath been in the battle himself. Hopeful. Well, but they ran, you see, when they did but suppose that one great grace was in the way. Christian. True, they often fled, both they and their master, when great grace hath but appeared. And no marvel, for he is the king's champion. But I trow you will put some difference between little faith and the king's champion. All the king's subjects are not his champions, nor can they, when tried, do such feats of war as he. Is it meet to think that a little child should handle Goliath as David did? Or that there should be the strength of an ox in a wren? Some are strong, some are weak, some have great faith, some have little. This man was one of the weak, and therefore he went to the walls. Hopeful. I would it had been great grace for their sakes. Christian. If it had been he might have had his hands full. For I must tell you that though great grace is excellent good at his weapons, and has and can, so long as he keeps them at sword's point, do well enough with them, yet if they get within him, even faint heart, mistrust, or the other, it shall go hard, but they will throw up his heels. And when a man is down, you know, what can he do? Whoso looks well upon great grace's face shall see those scars and cuts there that shall easily give demonstration of what I say. Yea, once I heard he should say, and that, when he was in combat, we despaired even of life. How did these sturdy rogues and their fellows make David groan, mourn, and roar? Yea, Heman and Hezekiah too, though champions in their day, were forced to bestir them when by these assaulted, and yet that notwithstanding they had their coats soundly brushed by them. Peter upon a time would go try what he could do, but though some do say of him that he is prince of the apostles, they handled him so that they made him at last afraid of a sorry girl. Besides, their king is at their whistle, he is never out of their hearing, and if in any time they be put to the worst, he, if possible, comes in to help them. And of him it is said, the sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold, the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him fly. Slingstones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. What can a man do in this case? 'Tis true, if a man could at every turn have Job's horse, and had skill and courage to ride him, he might do notable things. For his neck is clothed with thunder. He will not be afraid as the grasshopper. The glory of his nostrils is terrible. He paweth in the valley, rejoiceth in his strength, and goeth out to meet the armed men. He mocketh at fear, and is not affrighted, neither turneth back from the sword. The quiver rattleth against him, the glittering spear and the shield. He swalloweth the ground with fierceness and rage, neither believeth he that it is the sound of the trumpet. He saith among the trumpets, Ha, ha, and smelleth the battle far off, the thundering of the captains and the shoutings. But for such footmen as thee and I are, let us never desire to meet with an enemy, nor vaunt as if we could do better when we hear of others that they have been foiled, nor be tickled at the thoughts of our own manhood, for such commonly come by the worst when tried. Witness Peter, of whom I made mention before. He would swagger. Aye, he would, as his vain mind prompted him to say, do better, and stand more for his master than all men. But who so foiled and run down with these villains as he? When therefore we hear that such robberies are done on the king's highway, two things become us to do. First, to go out harnessed, and to be sure to take a shield with us. For it was for want of that he that laid so lustily at Leviathan could not make him yield. For indeed, if that be wanting, he fears us not at all. Therefore he that had skill hath said, above all take the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. 'Tis good also that we desire the king of a convoy, yea, that he will go with us himself. This made David rejoice when in the valley of the shadow of death, and Moses was rather for dying where he stood than to go one step without his God. O my brother, if he will but go along with us, what need we be afraid of 10,000s that shall set themselves against us? But without him the proud helpers fall under the slain. I, for my part, have been in the fray house before now, and though, through the goodness of him that is best, I am, as you see, yet alive, yet I cannot boast of my manhood. Glad shall I be if I meet with no more such brunts, though I fear we are not got beyond all danger. However, since the lion and the bear hath not as yet devoured me, I hope God also will deliver me from the next uncircumcised Philistine. Then sang Christian, Poor little Faith, hast thou been among the thieves? Wast robbed? Remember this, whoso believes and gets more faith shall a victor be, over 10,000, else scarce over 3. So they went on, and ignorance followed. They went till they came at a place where they saw a way to put itself into their way, and seemed withal to lie straight as the way which they should go. And here they knew not which of the two to take, for both seemed straight before them. Therefore here they stood still to consider. And as they were thinking about the way, behold, a man black of flesh, but covered with a very light robe, came to them and asked them why they stood there. They answered they were going to the celestial city, but they knew not which of the ways to take. Follow me, said the man. It is thither I am going. So they followed him in the way, that but now came into the road, which by degrees turned them so from the city that they desired to go to, that in little time their faces were turned away from it. Yet they followed him. But by and by, before they were aware, he led them both within the compass of a net, in which they were both so entangled that they knew not what to do. And with that the white robe fell off the black man's back, and they saw where they were. Wherefore they lay crying some time, for they could not get themselves out. Then said Christian to his fellow, Now do I see myself in an error. Did not the shepherds bid us beware of the flatterers? As is the saying of the wise man, so we have found it this day. A man that flattereth his neighbor spreadeth a net for his feet. Hopeful. They also gave us a note of directions about the way, for our more sure finding thereof. But therein also we have forgotten to read, and have not kept ourselves from the paths of the destroyer. Here David was wiser than we, for he saith concerning the works of men, by the word of thy lips I have kept me from the paths of the destroyer. Thus they lay bewailing themselves in the net. At last they spied a shining one coming toward them, with a whip of small cord in his hand. When he was come to the place where they were, he asked them where they came, and what they did there. They told him that they were poor pilgrims going to Zion. But they were led out of their way by a black man clothed in white, who bid us, said they, to follow him, for he was going thither too. Then he said with the whip, It is Flatterer, a false apostle that has transformed himself into an angel of light. So he rent the net and let the men out. And then he said to them, Follow me, that I may set you in your way again. And so he led them back to the way which they had left to follow the flatterer. Then he asked them, saying, Where did you lie last night? They said, With the shepherds upon the delectable mountains. He asked them, If thou had not of them shepherds a note of direction for the way? They answered, Yes. But did you, said he, when you was at a stand, pluck out and read your note? They answered, No. He asked them why. They said they forgot. He asked moreover if the shepherds did not bid them beware of the flatterer. They answered, Yes. But we did not imagine, said they, that this fine-spoken man had been he. Then I saw in my dream that he commanded them to lie down, which they did, and he chastised them sore, to teach them the good way wherein they should walk. And as he chastised them, he said, As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent. This done, he bids them go on their way, and take good heed to the other directions of the shepherds. So they thanked him for all his kindness, and went along the way softly, singing, Come hither, ye that walk along the way. See how the pilgrims fare, that go astray. They are catched in an entangling net, 'cause they good counsel did lightly forget. 'Tis true they rescued were, but yet you see they're scourged to boot. Let this your caution be. I think there can be a sense as we read through this book that the trials and tribulations are almost endless. I think Bunyan understood that well, that actually is the case, that there are many dangers, toils, and snares in the life of a Christian, many things to be aware of. Some would question then whether it's worth it, whether it's worthwhile to walk on this path if it's filled with so many dangers. And there's two ways to answer that. One is to think of the short-term dangers and troubles versus the long-term blessings. In other words, think about the hardships of this life leading to an eternity of joy with God. But the other way to think of it also is that suffering will attend every person. No one will escape that suffering. The worst unbeliever is going to suffer, and the Christian is going to suffer. The question is our suffering redemptive? Is our suffering meaningful? And the Christian life gives us a good answer to that question. So suffering, hardship, trials, dangers are worthy not to pursue, but should they come to us, worthy to deal with in a good way, because they have meaning within the Christian framework. And so I think that's an important thing for us to remember as we see these two pilgrims continually pummeled with various trials. Thanks for watching today. Hope you have a good day.